are moments in life that change us forever. Moments that divide everything into before and after. For me, that moment happened in the cold hallway of a hospital in New York, under flickering fluorescent lights, while nurses hurried past without even glancing at me. That night, I realized that the most painful words aren't shouted in anger. They're the quiet ones, whispered with indifference in front of strangers, pretending not to listen. Mom, Olivia, just wants her immediate family here. My son's voice sounded distant, even though he stood only a few steps away. I searched for his eyes, the same eyes I saw open 32 years ago, the eyes that once shone with love when he was little. Now those eyes avoided mine, filled with shame, as if I were something to be hidden. And just when I hoped to find a flicker of the boy who once adored me, my son, Adam, finished the sentence that broke my heart. Please don't push, Mom. She's never liked you. The world went silent. The hospital noises faded. Footsteps became distant echoes. I stood frozen, feeling something inside me shatter. I had just spent long hours on a bus, sitting on a hard seat that smelled of oil and old food, hours staring through a fogged window, watching towns, mountains, and endless roads pass by, imagining the moment I'd finally meet my grandson. I had planned every detail of that meeting. I pictured holding the baby for the first time, his tiny warmth, the soft scent of his hair against my cheek. I imagined Adam's proud smile as he introduced his son to me. I imagined Olivia, tired but happy, allowing me to help. I had imagined everything except this. Never did I think my son would look at me like a stranger, like a problem to be managed, like a burden to be removed. The sound of my grandson's first cry came from behind a closed door. I stood outside, silent, an outsider, forbidden to step in. I remembered all the nights Adam cried as a baby, and how I carried him in my arms until dawn, pacing barefoot across the cold floor, humming songs I made up, promising him everything would be okay. His father slept soundly, and I held that child until his cries turned into steady breaths. I remembered the fevers, the rushed trips to the hospital, the quiet fears only a mother understands. And now that same child I once protected told me I wasn't welcome in one of the most important moments of his life. My name is Grace Miller. I'm 62 years old. I was born in Nashville in a small house with a wide yard and an old apple tree. I grew up helping my mother cook, learning to bake apple pies, listening to her lessons about life and love. I married a hardworking man named Michael. He wasn't talkative, but he had the warmest heart. We had Adam when I was 27, and from that moment on, my life revolved around him. When my husband died suddenly of a heart attack, Adam was only 10. Michael left quietly, like a door closing without a sound. From then on, it was just the two of us, trying to survive. I sold our small shop and took any job I could find. At night, I cleaned dental offices, my hands reeking of disinfectant. In In the afternoons, I worked as a receptionist, returning home with aching feet and a sore back, but always smiling at Adam because he was my reason for everything. And now that same sun looked at me with eyes full of distance. I stayed silent, not because I had nothing to say, but because there were too many things that didn't need words. I wanted to scream that I had traveled so far just for him. I wanted to remind him of every sacrifice I had made. I wanted to ask when my loving boy became this cold stranger. But I didn't, because my mother once told me sometimes silence is dignity. I nodded, swallowed the burning tears behind my eyes, and refused to let them fall. I wouldn't let anyone see me break. I picked up my old dark brown leather purse, the one my mother gave me when I turned 18. She said, "Carry this with you during the important moments of your life." And she was right. That purse had been with me when Adam was born, when he graduated, when he moved to New York to start his career. And now it was here, witnessing my humiliation. I turned away without saying goodbye, without congratulations. I simply walked down the long corridor of St. Mary's Hospital. The lights flickered above me. The air smelled of antiseptic. I passed crying babies, families laughing, new grandparents taking photos. I saw mothers and grandmothers holding newborns, tears of joy shining in their eyes. And I kept walking. When I stepped outside, the February wind hit my face. I stood on the sidewalk watching cars go by, people coming and going from the hospital, life continuing as mine seemed to collapse. I didn't know where to go. The bus home wouldn't leave until the next day. I hailed a cab to a cheap hotel nearby, a small room with thin walls and a squeaky bed. Laughter and television echoed from the hallway. I sat at the edge of the bed and finally let the tears fall. I cried harder than I had since the day Michael died. I cried for every broken expectation, for the grandson I hadn't met, for the son who once said, "I love you, Mom." I cried for the teenager who wept in my arms the night his father passed, and for the man who promised he would always be there for me. Where was my son now? When did he become this stranger? That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the city outside, thinking about everything I had lost. In the morning, I took a long, hot shower, trying to wash away the grief. I wore the navy blue dress I'd brought for the occasion, put on light makeup, even though no one would see me, because I didn't want to look defeated. I went down for breakfast, weak coffee, and a stale pastry. But I couldn't eat. I spent the whole day wandering around the city, walking past shop windows, sitting on park benches, watching families stroll by, mothers holding hands with their children, grandmothers laughing with grandkids, while I felt completely hollow. By evening, I went to the bus station and sat waiting. Everyone there had someone picking them up. I had only an empty house waiting for me in Nashville. The bus pulled away more hours ahead, but I didn't stare out the window dreaming of joy. I only saw my own reflection, a tired woman, worn down and alone. I wondered if Adam even realized I was gone. Did he feel regret? Did he think about how he treated me? Deep down, I knew the answer. Probably not. He was likely happy with his new family, while I had become an uncomfortable memory. When I arrived home at dawn, everything was exactly as I left it. The unwashed coffee cup, yesterday's newspaper, and silence. Once that silence meant peace, now it meant loneliness. I set my suitcase down, hung the leather purse on the hook, made a cup of coffee, and sat at the kitchen table where Adam once did his homework while I cooked dinner. Now it was just me. The house felt heavier than ever, but the silence pushed me back into the memories of how everything began. Sometimes we trust the wrong people, and the price is a broken heart. There are memories we keep like perfect photographs, frozen moments from a time when life was simpler, when love hadn't yet hurt us, when motherhood felt natural and pure. Adam was born on a July morning many years ago. That night, it stormed so hard that thunder shook the windows. I lay in bed, clutching my stomach as the contractions came faster. Michael rushed around the room, fumbling for the car keys and hospital bag, trying to stay calm even as his hands trembled. I kept breathing and said, "Calm down, Michael. We still have time." But we didn't. The contractions grew stronger, closer together. My body knew it was time, even if my mind wasn't ready. Michael helped me down the stairs. The rain drenched us within seconds. He drove faster than ever, eyes locked on the road, hands gripping the wheel, wipers working at full speed through the downpour. "Hang in there, honey. We're almost there." I sat in the back seat, breathing steadily as I'd learned in class, counting between the waves of pain. Through the rain-covered window, the city blurred, and all I could think was, soon I'll meet my child. We reached the hospital at dawn. The nurses greeted us with kindness, helped me change, attached monitors, and checked the baby's progress. "Things are moving fast, ma'am. This baby can't wait to meet you." Michael held my hand, wiping sweat from my forehead, whispering encouragement. Then, when my body felt like it was tearing apart, I heard a cry. "It's a boy," the doctor said. "A healthy, beautiful baby boy." They placed him on my chest, wet, wrinkled, perfect, his tiny fists clenched, his breath quick and fragile. When his skin touched mine, I knew my life had changed forever. "Hello, my sweet boy," I whispered. Michael stood beside me, tears streaming as rain continued tapping the windows. We were the happiest family in the world. We named him Adam, after my gentle grandfather. The early years were beautiful. Adam hardly cried, slept well, and when awake, was curious about everything and always smiling. I remember mornings in our little house, sunlight streaming through windows, his soft babbling filling the air. I'd hold him, feed him, and watch the city come alive outside. Michael left early each day for work at a small hardware store downtown. The job was modest, but steady. He would leave home at 6 a.m., and come back in the evening exhausted, yet never without a smile for his son. I stayed home to care for Adam. Back then, I didn't work. We were a traditional family. Michael earned the money, and I made a home. I loved it. I loved watching Adam grow, learning to sit up, to crawl, to walk. I loved hearing his first word, Mama. Of course, it was Mama. I was always there. When Adam turned 2, he liked to help me cook, which really meant making more of a mess than anything else. He would stand on a little chair next to the counter, stirring pots with all his might. Flour would fly everywhere, covering the counter, the floor, and his laughing little face. I couldn't help but laugh with him. We baked cookies together. I taught him how to knead the dough with his tiny hands, while he tried to mimic me. The cookies always came out lumpy and uneven, but we baked them anyway and called them our masterpieces. One day you'll be a better baker than me, I told him. I just want to be like you, he replied with innocent sincerity. Our home always smelled of vanilla, cinnamon, and warm bread. On Sundays, we went to the park with an old blanket and sat under a tree. Adam would run everywhere chasing pigeons, climbing the slide, laughing wildly. Michael and I sat watching him, hand in hand, believing we had everything we needed. We're so lucky, Michael would say. Yes, we are, I always replied. Time went by quickly. Adam grew from the little boy I once held in my arms into a teenager taller than me. When he started school, I became the mother who never missed a parent-teacher meeting, the mother who always brought homemade treats for school fairs, who sewed costumes for class plays. Adam was a good student, responsible, curious, and hardworking. We would do homework together at the kitchen table. I tried to help him with math, even when I wasn't sure of the answers myself. He'd read me his essays aloud, stories about dinosaurs, superheroes, and astronauts. Do you want to be a writer someday? I asked. No, Mom, he laughed. I'm going to be an engineer. He admired his uncle, a civil engineer, who always answered his endless questions. How do bridges stay up? Why don't tall buildings fall? His uncle once told me, this kid's going places. And I believed it. But when Adam was 16, our world collapsed. Michael died suddenly of a heart attack. No warning, no goodbye. The day began like any other. We had breakfast together. He kissed my forehead and said, "See you tonight, sweetheart." But that night never came. I received a call from the store. Mrs. Miller, please come to the hospital immediately. What happened to Michael? He had a heart attack. He's at Central Hospital. Adam and I rushed there. When the young doctor came out, his exhausted expression told me everything. I'm very sorry. We did everything we could. Your husband passed about 20 minutes ago. Adam gripped my hand. Mom, his voice broke. I didn't know how to tell him his father wasn't coming home. They let us see him one last time. Michael lay still, peaceful, as if asleep. Adam stepped forward, gently touching his father's hand. Dad, then silence, a silence that swallowed the whole room. My son, almost a man, but still a boy, collapsed into tears. I held him close, feeling his entire world crack in my arms. The days that followed were a blur: the funeral, the visitors, the financial decisions, selling the shop, paying off debts. I had no choice but to sell the hardware store. The money covered the funeral and the debts, and whatever was left, I saved for Adam's future. I swore that no matter how hard I had to work, my son would finish his education. I took a job cleaning a dental clinic. The pay was small but necessary. I started at 5 a.m., scrubbing floors, bathrooms, and windows, surrounded by the sharp smell of bleach. My hands grew rough, my back ached constantly, but I never complained. Adam was my purpose. By 2 p.m., I would leave that job and go straight to my evening shift as a receptionist at another clinic. I answered phones, scheduled appointments, and smiled at patients, even when exhaustion consumed me. I arrived home around 9 p.m., and Adam would already have dinner ready. "How was your day, Mom?" he'd ask. "It was fine, sweetheart. How was yours?" "Good." We ate together, talking about school, friends, and the tiny details that made up our days. In those quiet evenings, just the two of us at the kitchen table, I felt we could survive anything as long as we had each other. Adam graduated high school with excellent grades. He applied to several universities and was accepted into the civil engineering program at the University of Chicago. "They accepted you?" I asked, my voice trembling with pride. "We did it, Mom," he said, hugging me tightly. "You did it. I don't know what I'd do without you," he added. "You'll never have to find out," I whispered. His college years were difficult, but full of pride for me. He studied late into the night at the kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of books and cold coffee. Many nights I stayed up with him, preparing small snacks, sitting beside him in silence while he worked. He was tired. I was tired, but somehow that made us feel united. "Do you know what I want to do when I graduate?" he asked one night. "What's that?" "I want to build a bridge, a huge one that connects people." "You'll do it," I said, "and when I do, I'll name it after you." "No," I laughed, "name it after your dad." "Then I'll name it after both of you, the Michael and Grace Bridge." On Sundays, we still went to the park. No more blanket, just long walks and quiet conversations. We were a team, mother and son against the world. Or at least that's what I believed. In his final year of college, Adam began talking about moving to New York. "There are more opportunities there, Mom." "It's so far, Adam." "Not that far, just a bus ride away." "I'm scared," I admitted. "You're everything to me." He took my hand. "And you're everything to me, Mom, but I have to do this." He was right, but my heart still ached. Adam graduated with top honors. I sat in the front row, crying as he walked across the stage to receive his diploma. I thought of Michael, how proud he would have been. I thought of the endless nights working, the exhaustion, the sacrifices, all worth it. 2 months later, Adam got a job at a large construction company in New York. Good pay, great benefits. "You did it," I told him. We did it, he corrected me. I helped him prepare, paid the apartment deposit, bought furniture, bought work clothes, nearly emptied my savings. I didn't regret a single cent. He was my son. The day Adam left for New York was one of the hardest days of my life. I took him to the bus station, helped with his luggage, and sat beside him in the waiting room. When they announced his bus, we hugged for a long time. Take care of yourself, sweetheart. You too, Mom. I'll call when I get there. Eat properly. Don't live on takeout. I know, Mom. And sleep enough, Mom, he laughed gently. I'll be fine. I'll miss you, I whispered. I'll miss you too. He stepped onto the bus, found a seat by the window, and waved goodbye. I stood there watching through the foggy glass, trying to memorize his face. The bus pulled away, shrinking into traffic until it disappeared completely. In that noisy station, surrounded by strangers, I felt the loneliest I had felt since Michael's death. I took a taxi home, staring out the window, but seeing nothing. When I entered the house, it felt heavier than ever, the silence almost unbearable. Rosa noticed immediately that something was wrong. Amy, how long has it been since your son called? About a month, I answered quietly. Why don't you call him? I want to give him space. I don't want to bother him. Rosa looked at me with those deep, knowing eyes that had seen me through 30 years of joy and grief. Or maybe, she said softly, you're punishing yourself for needing him. No, I whispered, I'm respecting his space. There's a difference between respecting space and erasing yourself from someone's life, Amy. What do you want me to do, Rosa? Call him and bother him. I want you to remember that missing your child isn't a sin, she said gently. I didn't reply. It was easier to blame myself than face the truth. By the 5th week, the phone finally rang. When I saw Adam's name on the screen, my heart pounded wildly. I took a breath, then another, trying to sound calm, as if I hadn't been counting every day. Hi, sweetheart, I said. Hi, Mom, he replied cheerfully, as if nothing had happened. How are you? I'm fine. You? Good, really good. Actually, I'm calling because I have some news. My chest tightened. What is it, honey? Olivia and I were getting married. The world stopped. The refrigerator hum faded. The ticking of the clock vanished. Even the dog barking outside sounded far away. Mom, are you still there? Yes, I forced out. I'm just surprised. A good surprise, right? He asked. I swallowed hard. Of course. Congratulations, sweetheart. I'm very happy for you. And I was happy he'd found love. But beneath that happiness lived fear and an ache I couldn't name. He continued, the wedding is in 6 months. Something simple, just close family and friends. Of course, I'll be there. There was a short pause. Great. Olivia will send the details by email. Email. A mother gets an email invitation to her only son's wedding. A week later, the invitation arrived, elegant beige with gold details, and a photo of Adam and Olivia smiling beautifully. They looked perfect. They looked happy. And I felt strangely outside the frame. The wording said, Daniel Carter and Olivia Smith cordially invite you to their wedding. Not Mom, we can't wait for you to be there. Not we're so happy to share this with you. Just cordially invite, the phrase people use for coworkers. I printed it out and pinned it to my refrigerator. Every time I walked past it, my heart tightened again. I gathered courage and called him. Sweetheart, I got the invitation. Oh, good, he said. What do you think? It's beautiful, but I was hoping maybe I could meet Olivia before the wedding. Maybe have coffee, get to know her. Silence. That's tough, Mom. Olivia and I are swamped. Cake tasting, photographers, it's chaos. I understand. That's why I thought I could help. I know, he said slowly, but Olivia's mom is already helping a lot. Brides want everything perfect. His words struck me. Her mother was helping. I wasn't even considered. Could I at least call her? I asked. Just to introduce myself. I'll ask, he said. But she's really stressed, tired, busy. Always an excuse. Before hanging up, he added, I really have to go, Mom. Talk soon. And just like that, I was pushed further from his life. Weeks passed, with only 3 short calls from Adam. Each one rushed, each one filled with reasons to hang up. I swallowed every question, every ache, every lonely evening, because I didn't want to be the annoying mother. Rosa tried pulling me out of the loneliness. Amy, you can't keep waiting for him. It's torturing you. I'm fine. No, you're not, she said. And pretending won't make it easier. But pretending was easier than facing the truth. 2 weeks before the wedding, I went to the mall to buy something to wear. I tried dress after dress, hoping to feel like a mother of the groom should feel important, valued. Instead, every dress made me feel smaller, invisible. In the end, I chose a simple navy blue dress, appropriate enough for a regular guest. The day before the wedding, I took the long bus ride to New York. There was no excitement in me anymore, only dread. I checked into a small, plain hotel room, set down my suitcase, sat on the bed and cried. Only for a minute. Then I stopped myself. I needed to be strong. I needed to be calm. The ceremony was at 4 p.m. in a beautiful garden filled with white flowers. I arrived early, stood at the entrance, and instantly felt like I didn't belong. I saw Olivia from a distance, stunning, surrounded by laughing bridesmaids. I walked up to her. She turned, her eyes scanning me from head to toe, judging my dress, my shoes, my hair. She smiled politely, the kind of smile you give a stranger out of obligation. You must be Amy, she said. Yes, dear, it's lovely to meet you. She didn't hug me. She didn't even look at me long. Oh, I'm sorry, she said quickly. I have to get back to the guests. And she walked away. I found Adam speaking with some guests. I'm here, sweetheart, I said. He turned, gave me a quick hug, light, brief, distant. Glad you made it, Mom. Thanks for coming. As if I could ever miss my son's wedding. Are you nervous? I asked. Nervous, excited, everything, he said. But someone called his name, and he left mid-sentence. I'll see you later, Mom. He didn't come back. When I found my seat, the pain deepened. First row, Olivia's parents. Second row, Olivia's grandparents and aunts. Third row, me, the mother of the groom, placed among distant relatives and friends. Not a seat of honor, not even recognition, just a place to fill. The ceremony was beautiful, and I cried, not just from joy, but from the ache of losing my son even before the vows were spoken. Afterward, as I walked through the bustling reception, I realized something quietly devastating. I wasn't part of Adam's new family. I wasn't included. I wasn't wanted. I was a polite afterthought. The wedding ended, the night grew quiet, and I returned to my hotel alone. The next morning, I boarded the long bus home. On the ride, I scrolled through Olivia's social media. She had already posted honeymoon photos, stunning beaches, champagne, fancy dinners. I commented kindly on each one. You both look wonderful. So happy for you. Olivia replied to everyone except me. When Adam finally called after returning from Cancun, the conversation lasted 10 minutes. Shallow, surface level, empty. For the first time in my life, I felt like my son didn't need me at all. The days after the honeymoon slipped into weeks, and Adam's calls slowly became routine. Short, polite, and empty. Each one felt like a reminder that the closeness we once shared was gone, replaced by a distance I couldn't cross no matter how hard I tried. How are you, Mom? I'm fine, sweetheart. How are you and Olivia? Good. Everything's good. Good. Fine. Busy. That was all he ever said. Every time I asked when they might visit or when I might come, the answer was always the same. Soon, Mom. We'll see. Not yet. In those first months, I tried so hard to fill the silence. Rosa and I joined a knitting class at the community center. I made scarves, winter hats, and eventually little baby blankets, not because anyone needed them, but because my hands needed purpose. One day, Rosa asked, Amy, who are all those baby blankets for? I smiled softly. For when I have a grandchild. Rosa didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Then one Tuesday night, everything changed. My phone rang, and when I saw Adam's name, my heart fluttered with the hope that maybe, just maybe, he missed me. Mom, he said, breathless with excitement, Olivia's pregnant. I froze. Mom, are you there? Yes, I whispered. What did you say? Olivia's pregnant. I'm going to be a dad. My hand flew to my mouth. Tears blurred my vision. Part joy, part relief, part aching love I'd held inside for years. Oh, sweetheart, I said, my voice trembling. You have no idea how happy that makes me. We talked for a long time, longer than we had in months. He told me about fixing the nursery, about the names they were considering, about the cravings Olivia had at midnight. For the first time in so long, I heard the boy he used to be. When we hung up, I sat in my quiet living room and cried. But for the first time in years, they were tears of happiness. The next day, I bought yarn in soft pastel colors, blue, pink, and yellow, and started knitting a baby blanket. I imagined the tiny hands that would hold it, the little face that would one day smile at me. A few days later, I called Adam again. "I'm knitting a blanket for the baby," I told him. "That's wonderful," he said. "Thanks, Mom. Can I make a hat too? And little booties? Do whatever makes you happy, Mom. Is Olivia there? Let me talk to her." Silence. "She's resting, Mom. I'll tell her to call you." She never did. I messaged her on Facebook. "Congratulations, Olivia. I'm so happy for you. If you need anything, I'm here." The message was read, but never answered. A week later, I tried again. "How are you feeling, sweetheart? Sending love. Seen." No reply. I told myself she was tired, overwhelmed. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't wanted. Still, I followed the pregnancy through Olivia's posts. Pictures of her growing belly, of baby clothes, of her smiling with her mother while setting up the nursery. Her mother. Always her mother. It was her mother who went to the doctor with her mother who helped decorate the nursery, her mother who held her hand in ultrasound photos. And me, I left supportive comments under the posts. "So precious. Congratulations. Can't wait to meet him." Olivia replied to everyone else, never to me. Weeks turned into months. My blanket was finished, neatly folded in a gift box beside a small teddy bear and a handwritten note. "Grandma loves you more than you'll ever know." I mailed the package. 2 weeks later, Adam texted, "Got the blanket, Mom. Thanks. Looks great." That was it. No photo. No message from Olivia. Nothing. When I asked Adam if Olivia liked it, he said, "She's not very expressive, Mom. She's tired. Always tired. Always too busy. Always an excuse to keep me away." But I held on to hope, telling myself that once the baby arrived, everything would change. I was wrong. As the due date approached, my excitement grew, but so did my fear. One evening, I finally gathered courage and called Adam. "Sweetheart," I said softly, "when the baby is born, I'll be able to come visit, right?" He hesitated. I heard it, felt it. "Of course, Mom, when things settle down." "When will that be?" "I don't know yet, but I'll get to meet him." "Definitely, Mom." It didn't feel definite at all. A few days before Olivia's due date, I called again. "Adam," I said, "I want to be there when the baby is born." Silence. Then, "I don't think that's a good idea, Mom." The world tilted. "Why not?" "Olivia needs peace and quiet." "So my presence would stress her." "No, Mom. It's just she doesn't want too many people around." "Too many people," my voice cracked. "Adam, I'm your mother." "I know, Mom, but Olivia's mom will be with her." There it was. Her mother belonged. I did not. "Adam," I whispered, "I wouldn't hurt Olivia. I only want to support you." "I didn't say you would. It's just she needs her mom." "And I'm not allowed to be there," he sighed. "Mom, please don't make this harder." My heart crumbled. Those same words. The ones he used when he pushed me away at the hospital. "All right," I said. "I understand." But I didn't. Not at all. The day Matthew was born, I didn't get a call. Not a message. Not a single word. I found out through Facebook. Olivia had posted a picture of a tiny newborn baby wrapped in a blanket, fist clenched, face soft and perfect. "Welcome to the world, Matthew Carter. Mom and baby are healthy." My knees buckled. I fell to the floor of the clinic where I worked. I cried like a child, full, broken sobs. Everyone in their world knew before me, everyone except his grandmother. That night, I sat alone staring at Matthew's picture for hours. He had Adam's nose, Adam's tiny fingers. He was beautiful, my grandson, but I was nothing more than a stranger peeking through a window into a life I wasn't allowed to enter. Hours passed. Still no call. Finally, I called Adam. He answered on the fourth ring. "Oh, Mom, hey." "I saw the photo," I whispered. "Congratulations, sweetheart." "Oh, thanks, Mom. Sorry, everything's been crazy." "Why didn't you call me, Adam?" he sighed. "Mom, everything happened so fast. You still had time to post on Facebook." "That was Olivia. But you didn't call me." "Mom, don't start, not start." My heart was broken, and he said, "Don't start." "Adam," I said, voice trembling, "I am your mother, Matthew's grandmother. I deserve to know." "You're right," he said flatly. "I'm sorry, but it's done now." "Can I come see him?" I asked. "Not yet. Olivia's recovering." "I won't stay long. I just want to see him." "Not now, Mom. I'll let you know." And he hung up. For 2 weeks, I watched Matthew grow through photos that never included me. Olivia's mother held him. Olivia's mother fed him. Olivia's mother was called the best grandma in the world. I was erased. Rosa came every day, urging me to speak up, but I couldn't. I was too afraid of losing even the tiny place I still had left. Finally, I texted Adam. "Please, let me come see him." Just once. Hours later, he replied, "Let me talk to Olivia." 2 days passed before he wrote again. "You can come this weekend, but only for 1 day. Olivia needs rest. 1 day." But I accepted. I traveled 12 hours by bus. I waited in a hospital lobby. I watched Olivia hold him, refusing to hand him over because he's sleeping. When I finally held him, 5 minutes before being put in a taxi back to Nashville, my heart broke and healed at the same time. His tiny fingers curled around mine. I whispered, "Grandma loves you," and kissed his forehead. 5 minutes. After 12 hours of traveling. After months of waiting. After years of loving a child who no longer loved me the same. That night, on the bus home, I saw Olivia post a picture. A perfect morning with the ones I love. They were all in it, Adam, Olivia, and baby Matthew. I wasn't even in the corner of the frame, and it was then, in that dark bus, surrounded by strangers, I finally understood. They didn't want me. Not in their home, not in their life, not in their memories, not even in their photos. The next morning, I returned home feeling hollow, like someone had scooped the inside of my chest out and left only an echo behind. I tried to sleep, but the image of Matthew's tiny face kept replaying in my mind. So perfect, so innocent, and the truth that I might never truly be part of his life hurt more than I could admit. But life has a way of moving forward even when your heart wants to pause. Days passed, then weeks. Adam called once, short and distracted, as if talking to me was something squeezed between errands. Every time I asked about Matthew, he responded with quick, shallow answers. "He's fine, Mom. He's growing well. Olivia's tired." The more distant he became, the more I felt myself fading from his life, as though he were slowly erasing me with each passing week. I tried to distract myself, knitting, cleaning, long walks with Rosa. But every night, I found myself staring at the one photo I had taken of Matthew. A slightly blurred picture I snapped during those 5 precious minutes in the taxi. His tiny hand curled around my finger. My grandson, my little heartbeat, a child who might not even know who I was. And then came the day that shattered whatever hope I had left. I was finishing my shift at the clinic when the phone buzzed with a Facebook notification. I opened it without thinking. There it was, another photo. Matthew was curled in Olivia's mother's lap, dressed in a soft blue onesie, smiling in that sweet, sleepy way newborns do. The caption read, "Thank you, Mom, for being by my side since the first day. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Best grandma in the world." My breath caught, my heart squeezed, my throat closed. The best grandma in the world. Not me. Never me. It wasn't just a post. It was a declaration of who Olivia considered family and who she didn't. I didn't comment. I didn't react. I just put my phone face down and stood at the sink until my coworker asked if I was okay. When I got home, Rosa came by. She knew something was wrong the moment she saw my face. "Amy, what happened?" "I saw a photo," I whispered. And for the first time since my trip, I cried in Rosa's arms, letting every buried pain rise to the surface. The loneliness, the rejection, the humiliation, the feeling of being replaced. "You can't keep doing this to yourself," Rosa said gently. "Why do you let them hurt you over and over?" "Because he's my son," I whispered. "And you're his mother," she replied. "But being someone's mother doesn't mean you have to let yourself be stepped on." I wanted to believe her, but my heart still clung to Adam, the child I raised, the child who once needed me. 2 weeks later, I finally texted him, "Sweetheart, it's been 3 weeks. Please let me come see Matthew again. I promise I won't be a bother." It took him 10 hours to reply. "Let me talk to Olivia." 2 more days passed before he wrote again. "You can come this weekend, but just for the day. Olivia needs rest." I agreed. Not because I was welcome, I wasn't, but because my heart couldn't survive another month without seeing my grandson. I packed carefully, choosing clothes that looked neat, but not too formal. I brought new gifts, a tiny blue outfit embroidered with bears, and another knitted blanket with Matthew stitched across it. I took the overnight bus again. 12 long hours of staring at the dark reflection in the window, wondering if I was foolish, desperate, or simply a mother who loved too much. When I reached the city, I changed in a public bathroom, brushed my hair, put on some perfume, and went straight to the hospital where Adam told me they'd be. And when I finally saw them, Adam, Olivia, and Matthew, sitting in that waiting room, my heart fluttered with hope. But the moment I walked toward them, the hope began to fade. Adam looked uncomfortable. Olivia tightened her arms around the baby. Their eyes avoided mine. A grandmother should be greeted with joy. I was greeted like a problem. The minutes that followed were heavy, cold, humiliating. Every question I asked was answered with one-word replies. Every attempt to bond was blocked. When Matthew stirred awake and I asked to hold him, Olivia clutched him tighter. "He's hungry," she said quickly. "I need to feed him." She walked away without looking back. The doctor called them next, and they both went in, leaving me alone in the waiting room like a stranger. When they came out, I forced a smile and asked, "How did it go?" "Good," Adam said. "He's healthy. Maybe I could come to your place." "Actually," Olivia cut in, "my family is coming over." I swallowed hard. "That's okay. I'd like to meet them." "It wouldn't be comfortable," she replied. "It'll be crowded." Adam added softly, "Mom, please don't make this harder." And that was when something inside me broke. Not loudly, not violently, but quietly, like a small crack spreading through glass. We went to a cafe. They talked among themselves. I ate nothing. They checked their watches. And within an hour, Adam announced, "Mom, it's getting late. We'll take you to the bus station." 12 hours on a bus. 2 hours with them. 5 minutes holding Matthew. 5 minutes, the only 5 minutes in the world that truly mattered to me. When the cab arrived at the station, Adam gave me a quick hug. "Thanks for coming, Mom." He got back in the taxi and said the words I dreaded, the words that sounded like erasing. "Thanks for understanding." And then they drove away. That night, as the bus carried me back home, I stared at the city lights until they blurred. I felt like a ghost drifting through a world that no longer had a place for me. I wanted to scream, to cry, to ask why. But instead, I sat silently with the one photo of Matthew I'd taken earlier, holding it like a life raft. When I got home, dawn was breaking. I walked into my quiet house, hung my purse on the hook, and made a cup of coffee, even though my hands were trembling. And that's when the phone rang. The number was unfamiliar, from New York. For a moment, I thought maybe Adam regrets everything. Maybe he wants to apologize. I answered. "Hello, is this Mrs. Amy Miller?" A cold, professional voice. "Yes, I'm calling from St. Mary's Hospital Billing Department." My stomach dropped. "We need to clarify payment for Mrs. Olivia Thomas' delivery bill." I froze. "Your son listed your number as the emergency contact responsible for the remaining balance." Emergency contact, not for the birth of my grandson, not for updates, not for love, only for money. "We need the payment this week, ma'am." I felt something inside me break, not from pain this time, but from awakening. "Ma'am," the woman pressed, "can you confirm payment?" I took a deep breath and said with a steady voice, I didn't know I possessed. I don't have any family in New York. A long pause. But your son listed. He made a mistake, I said quietly. Ma'am, goodbye. And I hung up. My hands were shaking, but my heart felt strangely light, as though I had finally picked up a piece of myself that I had dropped long ago. For the first time, I chose me. 3 days passed. My phone stayed silent until I finally powered it on. It exploded with messages, missed calls, voicemails, long texts from Adam. The first messages were urgent. Mom, call me. It's important. Mom, why did you refuse payment? What did you tell the hospital? Then came the angry ones. I can't believe you did this. You embarrassed us. Valerie was right about you. Valerie was right about me, the woman who worked multiple jobs, the woman who raised him alone, the woman who traveled 12 hours for 5 minutes with her grandson. I read every word, each one like a small wound, but I didn't reply. 2 days later, Adam sent a long email accusing me of being selfish, dramatic, controlling, embarrassing. He wrote, Dad said family helps each other. I've always supported you, and now you betray me. Supported me. When? How? Every sentence showed me how far away he had drifted, not just from me, but from reality. When I finally replied, I didn't yell. I didn't blame. I didn't beg. I simply wrote the truth, that I had been excluded, humiliated, ignored, that I was tired of being wanted only for money, that I loved them, but I loved myself too. When Adam responded with, Valerie was right, goodbye, I knew the chapter had closed, and for the first time, I didn't try to reopen it. The weeks after Adam's final email felt like standing in the aftermath of a long, violent storm. The house was quiet. The phone no longer rang. And for the first time in my life, I didn't wait for my son to call. I didn't check Facebook. I didn't scroll through photos of Matthew. I didn't rehearse conversations in my mind or wonder if I should apologize for something I didn't do. I simply stopped. Grief has a strange way of reshaping your days. At first, I moved through my routines like a shadow, going to work, cleaning houses, cooking small meals, doing laundry, all while carrying an invisible weight in my chest. But slowly, something unexpected happened. A breath of stillness entered my life. A small, quiet peace began to grow in the empty spaces that used to be filled with fear, guilt, and waiting. I started taking morning walks with Rosa. The park near my house felt different now, calmer, almost healing. Watching the sunrise, listening to birds, feeling the cool air on my face. For the first time in a long time, I was noticing the world again. One morning, Rosa asked gently, "Do you regret it?" I thought for a long moment, holding my coffee cup between my hands, warming my fingers. "No," I said softly, "I don't." Rosa nodded. "Good, because choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary." I returned to knitting class. I made blankets, hats, little socks, not for Matthew this time, but for the community shelter. The women there hugged me and thanked me. And for once, I felt appreciated without having to earn it through pain. I read books I used to love. I listened to music while cleaning. I cooked meals just for myself, meals that tasted like home, not loneliness. For months, I lived in silence, and slowly that silence became something gentle instead of suffocating. Then one night, as I was finishing a scarf, the phone rang with a number from New York. For the first time in months, my hands began to shake. Was it Adam? Was it Olivia? Did they need something? Was Matthew okay? I forced myself to breathe and answered. Hello, is this Mrs. Grace Miller? A calm, professional voice, not angry, not familiar. Yes, I replied cautiously. This is Fernanda Ruiz, a social worker from St. Mary's Hospital. My heart stopped. Please don't worry, she said gently. But your daughter-in-law, Olivia Thomas, was admitted 3 days ago. She suffered a severe mental breakdown. I gripped the edge of the table. She's stable now, but she cannot care for the baby. Your son is with her, but he cannot care for both his wife and the child. We need a family member to temporarily take custody of Matthew. The world went still. Matthew, my grandson, a child who barely knew me. A child I had held only once. A child who had been kept away from me. Where is he now? I asked, my voice trembling. At a temporary care center nearby. They can keep him only until tomorrow morning. Why didn't Adam call me? I whispered. He listed you as the second emergency contact, the social worker explained. His wife's parents were the first, but due to their own issues, they are unable to help. Your son has been struggling. He asked us to reach you. I closed my eyes. In that moment, 1,000 memories washed over me. The birth I wasn't allowed to attend, the cold wedding, the months of silence, the 5 minutes in the taxi holding Matthew. Yet none of that mattered compared to one simple truth. Matthew needed me. Mrs. Miller, Fernanda asked softly, can you come for the child? My heart answered before my mind did. Yes, I whispered, I'll come. But this time, I wasn't coming as someone desperate for love or approval. I was coming because I chose to. The overnight bus ride back to New York felt different from all the others. No longer was I a mother chasing after a son who kept shutting his door. I was a grandmother answering the call of a child who had no one else. When I arrived at dawn, the hospital halls that once felt cold and cruel now felt urgent but meaningful. I walked through them with steady footsteps, knowing exactly why I was there. Adam stood in the waiting room, his face pale, exhausted, crushed under the weight of his choices. For the first time in years, he looked like the boy who once clung to my hand at his father's funeral. When he saw me, he broke down, shoulders shaking, tears falling silently. Mom, I'm so sorry, he choked out. You were right. You were right about everything. He hugged me tightly, burying his face in my shoulder. I didn't say I told you so. I didn't scold him. I didn't ask why. I simply rested my hand on his back the way I used to when he was little. Where's Matthew? I asked gently. At the care center, he whispered. He's waiting. We walked there together. Adam explained everything on the way, losing his job, moving in with Olivia's parents, the tension, the arguments, Olivia's worsening depression, the financial strain, the panic attacks, the final collapse. He told me how wrong he had been, how blind, how easily he had allowed others to control his heart. I treated you terribly, he said through tears. I made you feel invisible. I didn't reply. Some truths don't need words, they only need time. When we entered the care center, Matthew was playing on the floor with a small toy car. His curly hair bounced as he moved. He looked up with wide, curious eyes when we approached. I knelt beside him. Hi, Matthew, I whispered softly. I'm Grace. I'm your grandma. He stared for a moment, then reached toward me with his tiny hand. A small, shy hug, warm, trusting, innocent. And in that instant, something inside me healed. That hug restored a part of me I thought I had lost forever. Over the next weeks, I took care of Matthew while Olivia received treatment and Adam looked for work. I stayed in their small apartment, cooking, cleaning, rocking Matthew to sleep, feeding him, singing to him, loving him. Not because I needed Adam's approval, not because I feared losing him again, but because Matthew needed stability. And I finally understood that love given freely, without begging, without hurting, is the purest kind. 2 weeks later, when Olivia was discharged, she broke down, crying the moment she saw me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I was scared. Scared I wasn't good enough. Scared you'd judge me like my mother did. I pushed you away because I didn't know any other way. Her voice shook. Her eyes pleaded. I want to make things right. Please, please give me a chance. And despite everything she had done, I found myself nodding. Because healing requires forgiveness, not for their sake, but for yours. The months that followed repaired what years had broken. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was honest. Adam learned that love isn't limitless, and taking someone for granted has consequences. Olivia learned that fear and pride destroy more than they protect, and I learned that self-respect is the foundation of every healthy relationship. By the time Matthew began talking, he said grandma with joy, not obligation. He knew me. He loved me, and I no longer felt like a shadow in his life. One evening, Adam called and said gently, Mom, the day you said, I don't have family there, it broke me. But it also woke me up. It was the best thing you ever did. I looked at Matthew playing on the living room carpet, laughing as he pushed his toy car across the floor, and my heart felt full. Not because everything was perfect, but because I was no longer begging for a place in their lives. I had created one with dignity, patience, and strength. The months that followed felt like stepping into a new life. Not one I had expected, and certainly not one I had imagined during those lonely nights waiting for Adam's calls. This life was quieter, slower, and built with deliberate choices rather than desperation. I woke each morning to the soft sound of Matthew's small footsteps padding across the floor or his gentle knocking on my bedroom door. Grandma, his little voice always made my heart lift. Every day with him brought healing. I cooked warm meals, folded tiny clothes, rocked him in the afternoons when he fell asleep in my arms, and taught him simple songs. I wasn't trying to replace anyone or prove anything. I was simply being what I always wanted to be, present. Adam had changed too. He no longer spoke with the distance that once cut like a blade. He no longer hid behind excuses or rushed through conversations. Instead, he stayed close, watching me with quiet remorse and deep gratitude. Sometimes he would say, "Mom, I don't deserve your help." And I would answer, "You're my son, Adam. I help because I choose to, not because I have to." Olivia's recovery was slow but sincere. She apologized more times than I expected, sometimes with trembling hands, sometimes with tears slipping down her cheeks. "I was terrified," she admitted one evening. "Terrified you'd judge me the way my mother judged me. Terrified you'd think I wasn't good enough for your son or for your grandson." Her voice cracked. I didn't know how to let someone care about me without feeling attacked. Hearing those words softened something inside me, something that had remained tight and aching for too long. Pain doesn't excuse behavior, but understanding it can help us forgive. I didn't forget the ways she had hurt me, all the ignored messages, the cold glances, the closed doors. But I also saw her now, fragile, trying, learning to be honest for the first time. Healing isn't about pretending the past didn't happen. It's about choosing not to carry its weight every day. Slowly, we grew into a rhythm. I took care of Matthew most days. Adam found temporary work, then a stable job. Olivia attended therapy, learned to breathe again, found her footing as a new mother. There were small arguments, tense moments, old wounds resurfacing, but unlike before, we talked through them. One night, while we were cleaning up after dinner, Adam said, "Mom, I want to be different. I want to be the kind of man Dad would have been proud of." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not the boy who had pushed me away, nor the man who had made me feel invisible, but a son who had finally grown into empathy. "I'm already proud of you," I said softly. His eyes filled with tears. For the first time in a long time, we hugged without guilt, without fear, without any weight between us. It felt like coming home. By the time Matthew turned 2, the house was filled with laughter again. He ran through the living room with toys in hand, babbling words in that charming toddler language only parents and grandparents can understand. Sometimes he would climb onto my lap, touch my cheeks with his tiny hands, and say, "Grandma happy?" And every time I whispered, "Yes, sweetheart, Grandma happy." I had spent years believing that my happiness depended on Adam's love, on being included, on being needed. But now I understood something deeper. Happiness comes not from clinging to others, but from choosing yourself, and then choosing others from a place of strength. Adam and Olivia invited me into their lives, not because I begged or suffered, but because I created boundaries that earned respect. This time, I wasn't there to fill a gap or fix a crisis. I was there because I belonged. One evening, after putting Matthew to bed, Olivia approached me quietly. "Grace, I want you to know something." I looked up, expecting another apology. "My mother was never gentle with me," she said. "I grew up feeling like nothing I did was good enough. When I met Adam, I saw how much he loved you. And I was scared that Matthew would love you more than me, that I couldn't compete, that you'd judge me like she did." Her voice broke. "But instead, you saved us. Not just Matthew, all of us." Tears filled my eyes, not from pain, but from finally being understood. "You're a wonderful mother, Olivia," I whispered. "All you needed was a little help, not judgment." She hugged me tightly, a real hug, not the cold, polite one from the wedding. It felt like another chapter closing, another beginning starting. As the years went on, life grew gentler. Adam called me every week now, sometimes just to share something small, a joke, a memory, a photo of Matthew. He no longer spoke to me as an obligation, but as a son who appreciated the woman who raised him. One spring afternoon, at Matthew's preschool graduation, he spotted me in the crowd, his eyes lighting up instantly. He ran toward me with open arms, shouting, "Grandma Grace." He hugged me fiercely, proudly, without hesitation. I didn't have to beg for space in his life. I didn't have to fight for my place. I didn't have to feel invisible. I was his grandmother, and that was enough. Later that evening, sitting on my porch with a cup of tea, I took out 2 old photographs. One of Adam as a toddler hugging me in the park, and one of the 4 of us smiling together. A family rebuilt from ashes. Both photos told the same story. A woman who loved deeply, who suffered, who walked away when she needed to, who healed, and who returned, not broken, but whole. For the first time in decades, my joy didn't depend on anyone else. My worth wasn't tied to sacrifice or suffering. I was enough for myself, for Adam, for Olivia, and for Matthew. Life didn't give me a happy ending. It gave me a fair one I earned. And as Matthew rested his head on my shoulder that night, whispering sleepily, "I love you, Grandma," I knew I finally belonged, not because I begged for it, but because I had learned to belong to myself first. The years that followed brought a quiet kind of joy, not perfect, not flawless, but honest. Life didn't become magically easy. There were still moments of tension, disagreements, misunderstandings, but unlike the years before, none of them were heavy enough to break us. Nothing felt like it would shatter me again. Matthew grew quickly, his laughter filling the spaces in my heart that had once held only silence. He learned to run, to jump, to say full sentences, and each milestone felt like a gift I was once denied. When I helped him with puzzles or watched him scribble drawings with crayons, I often caught myself whispering a small prayer of gratitude for moments I never thought I'd have. Adam also changed. slowly, steadily. He no longer avoided difficult conversations or hid behind excuses. Therapy helped him see how deeply he had allowed other people's expectations to shape his choices. He apologized for the years of distance, not just once, but through consistent actions, through presence, through respect. One evening after dinner, Adam said quietly, "Mom, you know the day you said, 'I don't have family there.' It broke me. I got so angry because I knew I deserved it." I looked at him, surprised. He continued, "It was the first time you stood up for yourself against me. You were right to do it. I needed to hear that. I needed to feel what my absence did to you." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry I didn't understand sooner." Hearing those words didn't fix the past, but it softened something inside me, a place that had been bruised for too long. Olivia, too, found her voice. She worked hard in therapy, confronting years of pressure, comparison, and fear. One afternoon, while folding laundry together, she said, "Grace, I used to think you were judging me, but the truth is, I was judging myself. I felt like I could never match up to the kind of mother you were. And instead of admitting that insecurity, I pushed you away. I hurt you because I didn't know how to face my own pain." It took a long time for me to forgive her, not because I wanted revenge, but because forgiveness is a slow and deliberate process. But as she spoke, I saw not the woman who shut me out of my grandson's birth, but a mother who had been drowning quietly for years. In letting her explain, I let myself heal too. Slowly, we built something that had never existed before. A real relationship, not perfect, not forced, not fragile, just real. By the time Matthew was old enough to draw faces, he always drew me with a big smile. "Grandma always happy," he'd say proudly. He didn't know the storms that came before. He didn't know the heartbreak. He didn't know the nights I cried myself to sleep or the bus stations where I stood alone, and I didn't want him to. Children deserve joy, not the weight of old wounds. As I got older, 65, then 66, life slowed in the most gentle way. I no longer rushed to please anyone. I no longer waited by the phone. I no longer questioned whether I mattered. Adam called every week, but now it wasn't out of obligation. He called because he wanted to, because he valued me, because he finally understood how fragile relationships can be when neglected. Sometimes he would say, "Mom, I want to raise Matthew differently. I want him to know love without conditions. I want him to grow up knowing that respect is the foundation of every relationship, including ours." And I would smile, because that meant he had learned the very lesson I had waited years for him to understand. Olivia and I weren't best friends, but there was mutual respect, something far more valuable than forced closeness. She invited me to birthdays, to family dinners, to little celebrations. She sent me photos of Matthew at school, at the playground, asleep with his stuffed bear. She asked for advice, sometimes real advice, genuinely wanting to hear me, and little by little, I let go of the hurt she had once caused me. Because healing isn't forgetting, Healing is remembering without bleeding. One morning, I stood in front of my dresser and opened my old leather purse, the same one my mother gave me, the one I carried through every important moment of my life. Inside were two photographs. Adam as a young boy, hugging me tightly in the park. A recent picture of the four of us, laughing during a picnic, not a perfect family, but a real one. Both pictures told the story of a woman who gave everything, lost too much, learned to let go, and eventually found herself again. As I held those photos, I realized something. Letting go had saved me, but choosing myself had rebuilt my life. If someone were to ask me now about motherhood, I'd tell them this. Being a good mother isn't about giving endlessly until you break. It's about teaching your children, even grown ones, that you are a human being worthy of respect, dignity, and love. No relationship should cost you your self-worth, not even family. Matthew is 4 now. Every time he sees me, he runs into my arms, shouting, "Grandma Grace, I missed you." His hugs are warm and wholehearted, not out of duty, but out of pure love. I don't have to beg for a place in his life. I don't have to fight for it. I am simply his grandmother, and that is enough. This final chapter of my life isn't about Adam or Olivia or even Matthew. It's about me. It's about learning that love without self-respect is just sacrifice. It's about understanding that saying no is sometimes the greatest act of love for yourself. It's about embracing peace even when life has bruised you. And now, at 67, I am happy, not because life turned out perfectly, but because I finally learned that my happiness belongs to me. If you've read my story until the end, remember this. You are allowed to walk away from what hurts you. You are allowed to choose yourself. You are